Hello, everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. How is everyone doing this evening? Happy and blessed Monday, blessed feast of St. Jerome, and welcome back to the Welcome to Asgard podcast, episode 522, where tonight we're going to talk a bit about the War of the Robots. That's right, the wild robot taking the number one spot this weekend and in many ways dominating what Transformers 1 is currently doing at the box office, at least as of its opening weekend versus the first two weekends of Transformers 1. Let's just say I do not think it'll be a huge surprise if I hear next weekend that the wild robot has surpassed the Transformers 1 movie. I think that is something that's definitely on the table. And I definitely think that we're going to see that happen by the end of next weekend. Time will only be able to tell, but based off of the very positive word of mouth, and not just positive word of mouth in regards to the Wild Robot, but people saying that it's the next classic, that it is a modern day classic, that it's the best animated film that they have seen in quite a long time, just based on the story itself. Hey, that has me excited. I know that I very much want to see this movie, and so we'll have to, of course, wait and see what happens. Also, it must be said, and you must be forewarned, that I have forgotten to turn my VPN off again. Last week we had, or it was a week ago, 2 weeks ago, we had the issue where I forgot to turn it off and then the stream crashed before it even began. So the fact that we're even starting now is already a much better sign. But if at any point it does crash on me, you will know why, and we will get the stream back up and running unless it's towards the end of the show. And so all of these things to talk about. By the way, shout out to Laura, the Modern Major General, for taking care of a troll in the chat. There was a troll in the chat. A troll in the chat. Of course, when there's a troll orange hat, the man with the orange hat was nowhere to be seen, which is why Laura was there to take care of things, take care of business. It's all good, though, Orange Chat. We all get here at different times. But hey, if you have differing opinions on people like Brie Larson or on Deadpool Wolverine or on anything else, that's fine. Different opinions are welcome here. However, you will not be able just to go off on tangents and try to derail the stream and clearly just be a jerk about it. That's not where this just chat is for. This chat is for fun conversation, PG-rated chat here, sometimes PG-13, within reason, of course. But all that being said, please make sure you smash that like button. A lot of that fire button over on Odyssey, and smash the button as well. Let's go ahead and get started tonight, everybody, by going into the chat. So let's see, we had Bruce hanging out. What's going on, Bruce? Thank you very much for being here. We got Snortopoopas Cooper saying, hello. Sorry about the previous post. I had some nonsense saved to the clipboard. I didn't even see it. So you're all good, Snortopoopas. No problem at all. We got Mr. Wingster, our pet troll. The only troll allowed here. Mr. Wingster, hello, good sir. We got Keely Chow hanging out as well. Mr. Wingster being a member saying here, Keely, stop tempting me. It's going to happen one of these days. Oh, Mr. Wingster, the day that it happens, I hope and pray that I'm nowhere near it. Keely Chow saying, hail Odin, how are you, Lord Thor, Freya, and Baby Sif doing? How was your birthday? Well, thank you very much. Birthday was very, very nice. I'm at that age in my life, and I've been like this for a long time, where I'm just not that much of a gift person. Gift cards typically are like, okay, thank you, I can use those, but it's like I'm not expecting it. So it's very hard to shop for. So my wife ended up getting me, and by extension, all of us, a new toaster. So a very nice new toaster because our other one wasn't really working very well, and I was very, very happy with it. So shout out to the lady Freya for that. It was fantastic. And then she and little Thor, my little bud Thor, it's crazy that he's going to be turning 4 in just a couple of weeks. So it's hard to even say baby Thor anymore, but when I say just Thor in general, people are going to start to wonder, hey, wait a minute, is your son's name actually? Well, his YouTube name is. And so, yeah, little Thor, he helped bake a cookie cake, and it's delicious. It's quite delicious. And Baby Sif's doing great. Please keep her in your prayers. Nothing crazy, nothing major. Any parents out there, you've probably experienced this before. At least I've heard other parents experience it. She has had ear infections like no other, and so she has to get tubes in her ears this weekend, this Friday, actually. So if you could keep her in your prayers. Again, not a major surgery, but one where I believe they obviously will have to put her under because a baby's not going to be able to take that, without moving around or anything. So just keep her in your prayers. Everything should be totally fine. Should be pretty procedural, just general things. But obviously, as a parent, you're like, But it's my child, and I'm always worried because they're just so small. She's just so small. She just turned 1 last weekend. It's just crazy. And it says, are you going to watch and review Conclave? That is one of the films that's on my radar, for sure. So that one, I believe, is coming out mid-October or November? And it is on my list of films that I'm interested in going to see. Whether I see it opening night or not, it's going to depend on if there's anything else that Gary is going to make us watch for FNT that takes precedent. But yes, that is definitely on my list of things to watch. I was not able to see a bunch of films this past weekend. I had initially planned to see a couple. Wife got sick one of those nights. I wasn't feeling that well one of those nights, and so I had to cancel. I was going to see The Substance, I think it was. Probably good that I didn't, because I heard a lot of people's reviews on that, and I just feel like it's the kind of movie that I'm probably going to hate. It's just like this, the one film I did get to see, which I'll talk a little bit about tonight, is the film My Old Ass, is the actual name of the movie, and it got very, very strong reviews from both of the guys over at Film Threat, and I was not a fan of it. I thought it was way too sexual. Did not expect it to be as sexual as it was. And as you all know, I'm not cool with that kind of stuff. I feel like that kind of crap is being pushed down our throats in every show, in every movie these days, right? Anything that's deemed to be mature content. It's like, I'm sorry. Last time I checked, just because a movie is geared towards adults doesn't mean it doesn't have to have that garbage in it. The film could have easily existed without any of that nonsense. That's the biggest problem of all, too, right? Is that all of these stories could have been told as well, if not even better, without having to show you that kind of stuff. I don't know. That's just me. But yeah, Conclave is definitely on there, though, as with any film related to the church, any film related to Christianity at the Catholic Church, I'm going to have I'm going to hold off and my reservations on that. Keely Chow saying, please pray for those who are still recovering from Hurricane Helene. Yeah, absolutely. We got some rain and some wind, nothing really crazy or major there. So, but I know there are a lot of people that got very heavily impacted by it, especially those along the coast. And especially those, I was watching a little bit of the Ryan, I don't know if y'all know of Ryan Hall, he is like a YouTube weatherman, and he's fantastic. And he always covers major storm events, and he and his team were doing a great job reporting new tornado warnings, predicting when tornado warnings would probably go into effect, giving warnings on parts of the storm, seeing rotations and saying, hey, be very careful or get into coverage now. So yeah, absolutely praying for everyone impacted by that. Mr. Gary Banjo Sandwich Worthington, Mr. 50% himself, saying, I'm 50% sure this week's Rings of Power will be epic. Yeah, so that just goes to show you just actually proved my point, Gary Banjo Sandwich. The fact that you even think it's a 50% chance, a decent chance that it's going to be epic, tells me everything that I need to know about your 50% score, which is that it's garbage. It's garbage. He then tries to say, happy 50th birthday. But I spit at you, Gary. I spit at you. No, I turned the very young age of 36. 36, but next year I'll be 37. Shout out to Lady Freya for giving me a movie quote. I was trying to find one that fit my age, and unfortunately there were none that had the actual age 36, but Harry Potter, talking about the number of Dudley's presents, 36. 36, counted them myself. I'll take it. It works. Snorter Poopers saying hello to the troll. Thenotas Felicitas saying hello from some time at 7:33 p.m., in fact. On September 30th, to be exact. I wish there was a fourth in that, because then it would have actually fit better with that quote. There, Laura was just coming in to save the day, to stop the troll in their tracks. Driving home, bam, Laura driving home, being able to take care of that. Mr. Wingster, who is a member, saying Chris Hemsworth is the wokest to ever woke Odin. Yes. Yes. There it is. There it is. All right, we got Prince Screen hanging out. What's going on, Prince Screen? Thanks for being here. GMonkey76, hail to you. There's the man with the orange hat. It's okay. It happens. JS Pena, what's going on? Hail to you. We got Prince Screen, who is a member, saying, phew, glad to see there are no longer any trolls here. Maybe the show can actually be uninterrupted. We'll see. If it's not a troll, it's my internet going out because of a VPN issue. So we'll see how it goes. Laura saying, oh, I did want to say that episode 2 of Penguin was just as intense as the premiere. Well, that gets me excited. I have not had any time to watch it because this weekend was crazy. Yesterday, the Lady Freya was actually quite sick. She was in bed all day, so I had both kids all day. And, I felt very blessed in a very, very odd way, because it's one of those things, especially as a younger parent, where there's these moments, right, where just things get crazy and it just gets very stressful. I don't know, I was able to somehow tap into some type of just calm for that, which I typically don't have. Like I know myself, and I just in any other situation, I feel like I would have been like, oh my gosh, I cannot do this. But it ended up going actually pretty well. And it was also just a really great day with the kids too. So that was really nice. And yes, I because of that though, I was not able to have any time to watch the second episode of Penguin, but I'm so excited to watch it. Glad to hear it's as intense. Hopefully it was also good, right? Let's see. Really old movies hanging out in the chat. What's going on? Really old movies. Kigan Rumsky saying, Odin, happy 36. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah, turned 36 on Saturday. I know I look much older, and everyone likes to make fun of that fact. It's the beard and the gray in the beard. Come on, people. Print screen. Who's Chris Hemsworth? Aha. Cthulhu, what's going on? Saying, hello and happy Monday. Please offer your prayers to those harmed and in need in the Appalachian Mountains. Absolutely. For sure. Everyone impacted. Receiving prayers. Jeremy Zukowski, good evening. Odin, good evening to you. Mike Jackson hanging out. What's going on? Mr. Roy, who is a member, one of the chosen of Valhalla, hanging out. What's going on, Mr. Roy? Whoever Sci-Fi is also a member. Hail. Kimberly G, Killian Shadow Cat. What's going on, Kimberly G? Howdy, Odin and everybody. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Oh boy, Mr. Sandwich saying, I get 50% reviews in before Christmas. Yes, I would say that would probably be pretty easy. In fact, I think that you're kind of lowballing your numbers there. I feel like every other review you put out is at 50%, with no variation. Mr. Wingster, Chris Hemsworth destroyed the modern VPN. Now that is a factual statement. Chris Hemsworth is the reason for everyone's sorrows. He is the blame for all of the nonsense in Hollywood. He is the blame for all the nonsense in Washington. And he is now also the blame for all things related to this channel, including the VPN. Luxilla, what is going on? Kagan Rumsky, yes. Why would you need to use the VPN? I'll let you decide that, King Kane Rumsky. But also, privacy is a nice thing. Not letting the government see what I'm streaming. Let the government see what I'm searching. And also my ISP as well. Let's see. Ambrose Timberbot saying, hi, Odin. Sorry I have not been able to troll much lately. I've been hidden across YouTube. That's okay. That is okay. J.S. Pena, hey, Odin, not relevant, but I'm curious. I recently watched the episode of King of the Hill about some psycho Christian woman who says that Halloween is the devil's holiday. What say you? Well, the funny thing is how reversed that is, right? There's this modern misconception and twisting of history that tries to argue that All Hallows Eve was somehow always this holiday rooted in the demonic and Wiccan witchcraft nonsense. When the reality is that, well, no, it's called All Hallows Eve because it's literally the eve of All Saints Day. Fun fact, All Hallows Eve, again, what does it mean to be hallowed? It means to be holy, to be saintly. So it is literally meant to be the day before All Saints Day. So Halloween has now been the name given to it, but the initial name for it was All Hallows Eve because it was the day before All Saints Day. So there's your fun fact. Now, one could argue about certain elements of pagan culture trying to be wiped out by Christianity in certain respects. Pushback from those cultures as well, absolutely. But a lot of the things that we know about Halloween come more so from the Christian lens versus the demonic witchcraft lens. So no, there's nothing wrong with Halloween. It depends on how you celebrate Halloween, of course. But it used to be back in the day that people would dress up as saints because, again, it was meant to be a commemoration of the saints of the church. Your fun fact of the day. Your fun theological note of the day, everybody. Wendy Hunter saying, Odin in chat, hello. Sorry I'm a little late. Family time. Family comes first. Wendy, so no apologies needed. Khalid Chow, I hope your internet doesn't do its impression of either the Tennessee Titans or Tennessee when they're playing Alabama Roll Tide. Don't care much about college football or really NFL either. So you go right ahead and make fun of my Tennessee Titans. You go right ahead, man. My only knowledge of the football comes from fantasy football, and it's only because my 10, 11-year-old nephew wanted all of his uncles and family to start playing a couple of years ago. This is our third year going now, and it's fun for that reason alone. Anything competition-wise is good. All right, Mr. Wingster, I think you're doing a little bit too much here, but I appreciate it nonetheless. He says, Bree and Chris were heavily involved with that sub-Saharan slave trade. Of course they were. Yes, of course they were. Carl Jacobs, what's going on? Let's see. Padre Consinero, what's going on, Padre? Saying, blessed almost respect life month and the month of Our Lady of the Rosary. Absolutely, Padre. Yeah, I just found out because I help my church with some live streaming stuff, and I just found out because we still have it's a parish that has a lot of older members that are unfortunately bedbound, and so we still need to offer that. If it was up to me, I would be like, no, we should not, because it pushes the idea that you can just skip mass. But it is, I think, good ministry to offer for those that physically cannot go, for sure. But I just found out though that because we have a Latin mass at our parish, and so apparently our next weekend's mass is going to be an external solemnity of Our Lady of the Rosary. So I'm very excited that we are going to have that. But Padre, thank you for being here. Absolutely. Very excited for that. Luke Zilla, oh, and happy birthday. Thank you. I appreciate it. The Morak, belated happy birthday. I hope it was a great day. It was a great day. It was an awesome, awesome day. And then my son, by proxy, of course, of the Lady Freya, got me a gift as well. And it ended up being a Hot Wheels track. Now, when I was growing up, I loved Hot Wheels. That was like my jam. At my parents' house, we still have this container of just so many of the cars that we had. There was this blue Lamborghini that I loved because I just thought it was the fastest thing and it just looked so cool. And so my son hasn't really had much experience with Hot Wheels yet because he wasn't quite old enough to get it. I mean, he could kind of understand like the Brio tracks and things like that, but even then, he was a little bit too rough with them. So now that he's a little bit older, now that he's almost 4, we thought that it would be a good time for him to do that. And so my wife had to like convince him to get me this. And it's actually pretty cool. Like the Hot Wheels have changed a little bit over time, but it's still mostly the same stuff. And so it's one of those ones where it's like a rubber band tension where you push back the starter basically, right? And then a button releases that, and then you can shoot a car through a loop, and it's got like a fire loop, and you got all kinds of stuff. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So, of course, I did play with it because I'm a big kid in many ways. And being able to play that with my son was also a lot of fun, too. Though he is definitely still not quite fully at the age to understand it because he was playing with it for maybe 2 seconds before he started to like lift the whole track up and move it around and try and toss it. It's like, bro, calm down, man. The track has to stay on the ground, okay? But thank you. Master of Gaming, thank you very much for the birthday wishes. Glad to see you. Westfield 60 just tipped $10 via Streamlabs. Thank you very much, Westfield60. I appreciate that. No message attached from what I can see. Yeah, YouTube, don't get none of that from Streamlabs, so I appreciate that. Thank you very much, man. Let's see, Forever Sci-Fi, turning T4. Turning T4? He is turning T4. Wendy, happy belated birthday. Thank you very much. Was able to celebrate the birthday on the Salty Saturday stream this past Saturday. Caveat Ties, what's going on? Print Screen, praying for the family. Thank you very much, Print Screen. Appreciate it. Nearsighted Cyclops, hail. Hail to you. Padre, happy to pray for her, my brother. Yes, absolutely, Padre. Thank you. Cthulhu, no, you were supposed to see Meg 2. Uh-huh. Sure, Cthulhu. Not on my list of things. Or in chat. Saw a new trailer for Nosferatu. It looks like they were putting in a sexual element in that film as well. Why? I mean, I can't say I'm that surprised because he had something to that effect also in The Northman. So, I mean, I guess one could argue that it's a lot more at home in a Dracula storyline, but even then, again, I still push back about it. Print Screen, is my old blank about an elderate donkey? No, it is not. Yes, in the biblical expression of ass, yes, my old ass. Yes, it's not about an elderly donkey. It's not about an elderly donkey. May have been a better movie. Because the problem, too, with my old ass is that it's got, man, that's going to be taken out of context, but it is the fact that the movie is got so many really great things in it about letting go, growing up, right? Kind of a coming-of-age story for someone who's at the end, it's their last summer before college, and so they're becoming an adult, but they're still not quite letting go of those things that they have done throughout their entire childhood and high school life. And so it's got those things in it. It's got those elements in it. But then she is essentially a lesbian. And so there's several sequences of her like making out and like just very, again, not like anything visual necessarily. Like you don't see nudity, but it's still like very physical interactions. And you're just like, what? Why do we need to watch this? Why is this on the TV? Like, why is this on the screen right now? But then over the course of the movie, all of a sudden, then she's like, oh, I like this guy. And it's just, to me, it was way more sexual than I thought it was going to be. All right, Nearside Cyclops, what's going on? Yeah, I heard that Asheville got hit very, very hard. I'm not actually too near that. I don't go near it during my travels, so for sure, but praying for them nonetheless. Really old movie, saying amen to that, Odin. Classic Hollywood is a great example of making films geared to adults that aren't full of gratuitous nudity, drug use, and language. Also, Concave looks amazing. Rafe Fiennes for the win. Yeah, I love Rafe. I think he's a fantastic actor, and he's actually been in some religious stuff before. It's amazing that actor can be one of the voices. He's the voice of Ramses, I believe, from Prince of Egypt. I forget the name of the character, but I'm pretty sure it's Ramses. But again, he's been in that. But then he's also been in films like In Bruges, which if you've never seen In Bruges, I recommend it. It's a dark comedy, so it's not going to be for everybody. Colin Farrell's in it. Speaking of Penguin, Colin Farrell's in it. He's hilarious. Not Donald Gleason. Glenn, oh my goodness, why am I blanking on his name? Brendan Gleeson. Brendan Gleeson's in it, who's phenomenal. And then you've got this amazing supporting role from Ralph Fiennes. And it has some of my favorite lines. It's just so funny. Oh, at one point he calls his wife an inanimate object, and it's just in context when you watch it. I cannot say the full clip because it has some naughty words in it, but look it up. It's quite entertaining, But yeah, the fact that he can be in something like that, but then now he is going to portray a cardinal in the Catholic Church. It's gonna be interesting. Abomination, what's going on, good sir? He's hanging out over to Ozzy, saying, I give Gary Banner Sandwich worth his prediction a 7 out of 10. Yeah, IGN score. That's a good one. JS Pena, happy belated birthday. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Mr. Wingster, it's okay, Odin. We'll get you into a great home. Wow. You're already going to put me into a home, Mr. Wingster. I'm not that old. See, that I'm looking forward to next year, okay? Because next year, when I turn 37, it's going to be all Monty Python, Search for the Holy Grail. I'm 37. What? I'm 37. I'm not old. Well, I can't just call you man. You could say Dennis. I didn't know you were cold, Dennis. Such a great exchange. Love it. Snowgolem13 hanging out over on Odyssey, saying, Hail Odin in chat. Hail to you. Thank you for being here. Got a lot of awesome people here tonight. Snowgolem13, hail. Padre saying, sorry to hear about my old Patui movie because Film Threat said it was good and was looking forward to a good movie, praying for your babe. Well, thank you very much, Padre. Yeah, I was too. And they've been on a roll recently. I've liked almost every single film that they have recommended. I mean, I think one of my favorite films this year is Strange Darling, which they recommended and is one of their top films of the year. And it was just phenomenal. And there's some sexual stuff in there too, but it is also much more limited. It's not really the focal point of the movie. And surprisingly, with all of the things that they do in those sequences, there is not any nudity. So it's like somehow they do that. Whereas in this movie, it just, again, in both cases, it's completely unnecessary. In both cases, you really just don't need it. But at least it makes more sense. Again, still unnecessary, but it makes a little bit more sense in the context of Strange Darling for the kind of movie that it is versus the kind of movie that My Old Ass is, right? Yeah, I think it's not appropriate in either circumstance, but hey. But thank you very much for the prayers. Mr. Wingster, me, makes continuous Chris Hemsworth joke. Odin, I can fix him. Forever Sci-Fi. It was remember, Hollywood is tame in satanic influence compared to your average award show in Hollywood. That is very, very true. Hardwick, happy birthday. Thank you very much, Hardwick. I appreciate that. Bruce says, I must have missed something. What's with Chris Hemsworth? Oh, Bruce, you were not here last stream. Oh, you've exposed yourself, Bruce. You've exposed yourself. Go back and watch last week's stream if you want to find out all about Chris Hemsworth. and how the stream got derailed. It ended up being one of my favorite streams, though. It's amazing how that can happen sometimes. Laura saying, happy belated birthday. Thank you very much. Thank you. Carl Jacobs, wife and I tried to watch Inside Out 2. We turned it off after 20 minutes. It was just too cringy. Whoa, what? I've heard a lot of things about it. I have not heard it cringy. What was cringy about it, Carl? I've heard from the vast majority of people that it was actually a return to form in many ways and was on par with the first Inside Out, which I actually quite liked. Luke Zilla saying here, yeah, the nostalgia of the older toys is pretty cool. I still have my Optimus Prime toy my parents got me when the 2007 Transformers movie came out, although it's been through the trenches. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that, so for me growing up, you know, my older brother was into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and so we have a lot of those toys. And so I obviously had knowledge of them, was a fan of them. He was into the cartoon show. I got much more into the live action movies, which I love all of them. I know that the first one is the best, and I know that the other ones kind of go a little bit crazy, especially that third one. But you know what? Even when they bring time travel into the third movie, it's a lot of fun for me. All right. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, objectively it's not good, but man, is it a darn good time for me. And at this point, it's also a nostalgia trip. So, yeah, but oh man, it was really cool. One of the trips back home that we did, we were trying to find different things for my son to play with. And so we ended up finding a lot of the old toys that I played with as a kid. And so the old Hot Wheels came out, and I was able to, you know, try to tell him stories. And of course, he's, you know, we are pretty sure he's got ADD like I do. And so he's just like, huh, what? And like the whole time I'm like, yep, literally me when I was that age, where it's not even just that you're hyperactive, right? Because some people say, oh, it's overdiagnosed and this or that. It's like, no, you can tell, because it's one thing to be excited and hyperactive. It's another when it's like literally, what? It's something very specific. And so trying to explain it to him, I think he picked up some of it, but I'm happy that now we have our first bit of track. And with his birthday coming up, I have an idea of some of the things that I am going to be getting. And it's going to be for both of us ultimately, because I enjoy playing with them too. I enjoy playing with those toys too. I'm a big kid at heart. Let's see, Rob D. Hello, Odin. Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars were my childhood. I had about 700 as a kid. My favorite was the 1997 Way Too Fast, the orange hot rod that had two big engines. Nice. Very cool. Kincaid Rumsky. Odin. Cthulhu has just joined the cause. Kincaid Rumsky is converting people left and right to the Meg 2 cause, and I don't like it. I do not like it. Jeremy Zakowski, happy belated birthday. This calls for a birthday ice cream cake. It sounds delicious for sure, but I got a cookie cake instead, and it was delightful. I'm not even going to say that it was delicious. No, it was just delightful. It was a very nice time. Well, I just got to double check and make sure my kiddo is okay. He did not go poop before bed. Now, he says that he went at school. So sometimes he'll call out and be like, Daddy, I have to go. So sometimes I gotta check in. All right, print screen. Oh, one of the joys of parenthood. He's getting to that age though where it's one of those fun things where he's you know, he had the terrible twos, which I will be honest, three-nager in many ways is a lot worse than the terrible twos. But he's starting to get to that point now where he's starting to calm down. He's got better regulation of his emotions. And so I'm looking forward to the day where it's just us hanging out, you know, where it's like, yeah, I'm still his dad, but at the same time, it's like, not saying that we're friends, but that kind of mentality. I don't know. It's like one of those things that as a parent, you're like, man, that's going to be a really cool time. Because I'm loving this time. I think this is a beautiful moment and beautiful time in his life. But there's also just so many other cool moments that I just can't wait to have. Again, it's one of those joys that you get. Let's see, Twisted Reality, what's going on? Cthulhu, dude, what have I told you about Bambi versus Candy not being real cinema? Oh, man, Mr. Wingster. Odin can fix everyone. I can try. At the very least, I can offer up prayers, and sometimes that is the medium through which God works. Other times, it's going to be through people. All differently, but God works through all of us in different ways. Duncan Blackthorn, hail to you. Print screen. Tag to say, I don't know if you can get this movie in the United States, but the Korean movie Hijack 1971 is one of the best movies of the year. Tense and never lets up until the end. Yeah, I never heard of that film until just now. Keely Chow heading out early again. Keely Chow, thank you for being here nonetheless. Soul Assassin, wait a minute. What's up, man? Happy birthday, Odin. Thank you, Soul Assassin. I appreciate that. Wendy Hunter saying, Odin, I found Inside Out 2 entertaining and not woke. Well, there you go. That's what I've heard from most people. Wife and I have not watched that yet. I believe it is on list of movies that she's interested in checking out because we both enjoyed the first one quite a bit. Let's see. Rob D. Did I say, happy belated birthday, by the way. Also, has Adam Driver ever been in a movie that made money besides Star Wars? Ooh, my goodness. I'm actually not quite sure. Because he's been in several movies. There was a pretty good film that I enjoyed, at least, called, was it Patterson? I think it may have been Patterson. Let me double check. But it was a very small budget and also independent movie, and so it did not make a whole lot. So, man, oh man. And of course, it's never just going to show up right away. It's never just going to show up right away when I do a quick search for it. So let me see if I can find it by name. Adam. Oh, my goodness. And if you don't spell it correctly on the numbers, it won't give you anything. Because for some reason, its search algorithm just cannot actually figure these things out. All right, let's see. As an actor, he has been in quite a bit. So he was in J. Edgar, which wasn't that big. Lincoln. Hey. Lincoln. I think that film made money. Inside Llewyn Davis, not as big there. Let's see. Midnight Special, I really enjoyed, but not really that much of a moneymaker by any means. He was in the film Silence, which I adore. Oh my gosh. So Martin Scorsese's film Silence, it is definitely not a film for everybody because it's a long and a slow burn, but oh my goodness, man. Such a great film. He's fantastic, and Andrew Garfield is fantastic in it as well. It is Scorsese. It deals with Jesuits, the good Jesuits, all right? Always got to clarify, it's the good Jesuits. So when the good Jesuits went to Japan to bring about the conversion of the peoples, right, to spread the gospel, they obviously were met with a lot of resistance from some of the leaders who just outright killed them, right? Just for literally spreading the gospel, people choosing to believe or not to believe. And it deals with these two Jesuits that are basically going into one of these Japanese communities that's been established there, trying to find one of their other fathers because it's rumored that he might be about to apostatize and he might be about to publicly renounce the faith, which is one of the gravest sins that one could possibly commit. So it deals with that. It deals with that whole experience, and it deals also with how they were treated at that time and the way that crucifixions were done, because they mocked the faith by having crucifixions. But in Japan, they didn't do your typical crucifixion. Let's just say there's a cross involved, but there's also water and a thing such as high and low tide. Oh man, brutal to watch, but brilliantly filmed. Cannot recommend Silence enough. I'm now reminding myself how much I love this movie, and so I'm actually going to write that down and be like, buy more copies to give away. Because whenever there's a movie I love and adore, I want more people to watch it. And so I use the money that I get to buy films to give away. Let's see. Logan Lucky was not big money maker there. Black Klansman was great up until the very end, when it just goes off a complete TDS tangent and ruins the entire movie. Like, everything about the film gets ruined, but that was pretty good. Wasn't the biggest moneymaker either. Yeah. So, again, a bit of hit and miss, to be honest. A bit of hit and miss. Recently, we will easily say it has been very, very tough for him, okay? It's been very, very tough for him. In fact, let me go ahead and put this up on the board so that way everyone can watch along. Everyone can watch along then at this point. It's good for us to all know exactly what's going on together, but it does mean that I have to, let's see. There it is. That way everyone can see. So we can see now the budgets with this too. So $65 million $45 million budget, made only $56 million worldwide, is Garbage. Garbage Ferrari. A film that I actually never got to see. $95 million budget, only made $40 million. That's pretty bad. Megaflopolis. He's been in, as I said, he's been in some massive flops the last few years, unfortunately. House of Gucci also was known to be a pretty big flop as well. $75 million budget, $147 million. So a little bit better comparison there, a little bit better ratio, but still not great. Last Duel, $100 million budget, $30 million total. That's a massive flop. Rise of Skywalker, of course. We've talked about that before here on the channel. Marriage Story did terrible, and I've only seen the first half of it, and man, oh man, I do not like it at all. He was in that film The Dead Don't Die, no reported budget, doesn't make a whole lot of money. Black Klansman only cost $15 million, made about $93 million worldwide, so I would say Black Klansman, financially speaking, may have been the last really good return on investment that has been in a movie he's been featured in. Logan Lucky was actually pretty fun. $29 million budget, only $49 million total, so not that great there. Patterson was a $5 million budget, $10 million total. Again, not a great ratio. Silence, $46 million budget, only made $23. No one saw it. No one saw it. It was a long Scorsese film in theaters before his deal with Netflix. But man, oh man, is it so good. Midnight Special, similar story, $18 million budget, $7 million at the box office. Oh boy. Star Wars, again, look at that massive budget for Episode 7. And then, let's see, this is Where I Leave You. I've heard some things about there. $20 million versus $41. Again, not great. Inside Llewyn Davis, overrated film in my opinion. $11 million budget versus a $32 million total. Again, not terrible ratio there. Lincoln, as I said, probably the last major release he's had. $65 million. He's a minor role in that. $65 million budget, $270 million worldwide. And then J. Edgar, $35 million, $84 million, so not the best there. So, yeah, bit of a hit and miss. More misses than hits for sure. So, yeah. But he's still a great actor. That's the thing. Just because you're in a bunch of flops does not mean that you're a bad actor. It just means that you probably need to get a better agent. But I am so glad he was in Silence. It's such a good film. See, Prince Green, at what age will you first show Baby Thor Meg 2? Well, not anytime soon because I've got to watch it first. I honestly thought, because I have not brought him to a theater yet. He's seen a live production of a couple of shows. He saw one at school, and then he and I went to go see the first half of Seussical the Musical that was at a school that I'm associated with. And so it was a really good time. But he also had to leave halfway through because, again, he was distracted. He's usually done pretty well, though, with movies and shows. I mean, this kid has been able to sit through Star Wars movies since he was maybe a year and a half was when he watched his first Star Wars movie. The first time he watched it, he got halfway through before he started to walk away. He was just entranced by it for the first half, though. And again, for that age, that's very, not common. And ever since then, he's been a big fan. Recently, though, he's obsessed with Godzilla. I think I've mentioned that before, right? How he's obsessed. He's still obsessed. So I got him this Godzilla encyclopedia just got released. Pretty sure it was a fan release of some kind, but it's got breakdowns of all the characters and pictures, and he's obsessed with it. So it's what we read now in the morning, at night. It's the potty book as well. If you have kids, you probably know exactly what that is. Yeah, it's been really fun to see that. But I was getting back to what I was saying. I was thinking of potentially actually bringing him to a movie theater to see his first movie on the big screen. And if the Wild Robot's as good as people are saying that it is, that might be a contender. I still think he's too young, but we'll see. Carl Jacobs says, we found Inside Out 2 cringy because of all the adolescent politics, just didn't want to deal with it. I don't quite know what that is. Again, this is the first negative thing I've really heard about it. So, Master Gaming, one reason Transformers 1 failed is because of poor marketing. That's a part of it, Master of Gaming, okay? But that can only be a part of it, because we've seen movies with bad marketing be able to surpass that marketing because of positive word of mouth. I think the problem is that the Transformers fan base, especially amongst the older demographics, is not a very large demographic. And if it is a large demographic, it is not a movie-going demographic, or at least not anymore. You look at how much money was made by the Michael Bay Transformers movies. A part of that is because of those hardcore fans, but that normie audience also came out huge to those movies because of the spectacle of it all. But because they made so many of them so quickly, and because they ended up being garbage movies every single time, it got people burnt out on them. And that leads to that law of diminishing returns. And so now whenever people hear Transformers, they have in their mind a specific image. And so even now with this movie having good word of mouth, it's just not enough to be able to motivate anybody to want to go and support these movies. I admit, the marketing was not good, but that's not the only reason why. In any way. Excuse me. Let's see. Luke Zilla. I feel you. I've recently been trying to rebuy some of the 2007 to 2011 toys from the first 3 Transformers movies that I lost or broke to re-add to the collection. Bring back some good memories. Oh, yeah, for sure. Laura says, did Silence make money? No, it actually didn't. It actually didn't. Kind of goes back to what Scorsese has often been critical of, that audiences these days are being trained essentially to go to see the roller coaster theme park movies, and not so much the ones that actually have something a little bit deeper to offer there. And I think that there's both good and bad to his argument, for sure, but it is a point that we have to listen to, I think. Mr. Wingster says, Odin, TMNT 90 was my favorite version, has my favorite version of Casey and the Turtles. So good. Prince Green, Logan Lucky with Adam Driver was good. Don't think it was profitable, though. Nope. Again, good, but not that great. Caveat ties. Marriage Story was on the cheap, maybe profitable. Maybe, but garbage film, man. And again, I think we looked at the numbers for that, and it didn't look like theatrically it made anything. That was a movie that may have made more, because I think it was one that went to streaming almost right away, or at least very quickly after its release. So it may have made money after the fact. I had to read the book Silence in college. Yes, it is indeed based off a book. Wendy Hunter says, I do enjoy your knowledge of Christianity and shaking it too. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Or sharing it, I think. Yes. I always love to. Again, it's part of why I do this. And it's part of the reasons why I still do things like Friday Night Tights, even though the level of conversation and comedy is usually well beyond what I am comfortable with. But I do it because it's important, I think, for Christian voices to be out there. It's a part of who I am. It's a part of how I'm made, and it's something that shouldn't be hidden. Abomination, Odin shilling for potentially good movies again. Oh man, look at me, King Shill. Yeah, it's amazing. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna shill for a movie that is not in any way in any mainstream discussion. And it gives no benefit to me. It's not like, oh man, my numbers went up because I started talking about Silence, the movie that everyone watched. Oh man. Laura saying The Dead Don't Die was quirky, pretty good. Okay, yeah. I think now I'm starting to remember when that came out. I think there were some issues because it didn't have some politics in it where like there was like a conversation over something on television or something. I feel like there was like a political aspect to that one. Snow Golem 13. Someone needs to shill to get good movies back to theaters. Is that what's needed? Or is there something else that we need out there? Wendy Hunter saying, Inside Out 2, in my opinion, deals with real teen girl issues when you reach puberty, so I can see how that might be cringeworthy to other people. Oh, okay. Yeah. I can see how that could definitely that might be something that even affects me. Though, to be fair, it is something where it's like, as much as I think that type of stuff should stay private, it is something where I think about how it is oftentimes portrayed more so openly with guys than with girls. And I do think that if we're going to talk about, and again, I very cautiously use the words there, true equality, right? We should be looking at this in the same way. Now, that being said, I do think that there is a line, and Disney has notoriously always crossed that line. Because if it deals with what I'm thinking that it deals with, they unfortunately already have dealt with that within a show on Disney Plus, which I've already been very, very critical of. It's the one that everyone was going out of their way to be like, oh man, the new Baymax show on Disney Plus featured what seemingly was a trans person, trans flag was in there too, or something like that. And the issue that I had with it, though, was like beyond that. I was like, okay, it's already bad enough that you're trying to push ideology onto kids, and they're very clearly in the leaked videos that we've seen open about that is what they're trying to do. But in the episode, you have a whole conversation that Baymax is having with this young girl who's having her first period, for lack of a better expression. And it's like, I'm sorry, I don't think that should be in a kid's show called Baymax. That's for younger kids. This is not really a show geared towards kids going through that. And I don't think it's Disney's place to try to have that conversation with kids. That's a conversation and that's a topic that should be talked about between families. And so I get it, right? I get that people might be, if that is indeed what's in it. Again, I've not seen it yet, so I can't speak to it myself. But something that I could see making some people uncomfortable and not thinking deserves to be there. I get it. Mr. Wingster, let's be real. We all went because of Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf. Mr. Wingster says, Odin, guess what I have? Cookies and cream. Ice cream. Ooh. How dare you? How dare you have that? 2 days after my birthday and not let me have any. Luke Zilla, I do think the shift from live action to animation might also be a cause for why it's not doing well. I wouldn't fully blame Bay since he hasn't directed one of these movies for 7 years now. Did he even direct this one, though? I honestly don't know. I think that has less to do with it, though. I'm going to be honest. I think it's because, yeah, marketing is a part of it. The biggest reason, though, is because of Michael Bay. Look at just last year alone, okay? The last Transformers film, Rise of the Beast, live action, guess what? Basically, no one went to go see it, especially in comparison to its budget. Comes down to it, again, people are burnt out on that IP. Abomination saying, it's like what happened with Star Wars. People are practically trained on spectacle of lightsabers and ships when the original trilogy only had the proportionally small amount of all that. That's true. Hardwick, have you tried watching any of that fan edit of Thor the Dark World? I have not had the time yet, but I do have it. King and Rumsky, did Solo make money? Oh no. We all know the truth. It did not. Let's see. Mass Flarps. Hello, Mass Flarps. New name. Acts very similarly to people I've seen on the channel before. Anyway, thoughts on Twilight of the Gods by Zack Snyder. Seeing that Zack Snyder, I'm going to say it's probably garbage. Is that like his new animated show or something? I've heard, Dutch Butters, I think, said something positive about it. But I'm sorry. Anything by Zack Snyder, I automatically have no interest in because the dude has no talent. From a creative lens, from a writing lens, he's got nothing. And honestly, he would do everyone a favor by just going away. And if he wanted to make movies for himself, go right ahead. Go keep making your movies yourself, Zack Snyder. But man, oh man. All right, before I get too far away from the main topic, because I think there might be some people that are interested in it, let's go ahead and dive into this bit of news about the differences between The Wild Robot and Transformers 1, since Transformers 1 has indeed been brought up now. So, first off, it has to be said that we're still in early days for both of these movies, right? As of right now, Transformers 1, which came out on September 20th, has made $62 million worldwide, whereas The Wild Robot, which just got released this weekend, has only made $53 million. Now, I start off there because you should note, Wild Robot being brand new, has one less week out there as far as box office return versus Transformers 1, and yet it's already within striking distance. The fact that it's within about $9 million of Transformers 1 after, right, very, very small amount of difference between the two ultimately shows that Wild Robot is tracking well enough to where we could easily see Wild Robot take over Transformers 1 down the line. But we can also make some projections about where we could expect to see both of these movies in their respective futures. So first, let's go ahead and put other films up in comparison. So we'll put up one of the more successful animated films to come out this year, Kung Fu Panda 4, which easily beats the competition, right, making $57 million against the Garfield movie, which was also a decent success, not a massive hit by any means, but a decent success, especially comparatively to its budget of making $24 million in its opening. And then you have Transformers 1 at $24.6 million, The Wild Robot at $35.7. Now, some might point out, well, hey, if you say the Garfield movie is a success and Transformers 1 made more money, then wouldn't we say that it means that that's what we're going to see happen? Well, that could be true, except you then do the rest of your comparison. And guess what? By the end of the first week, if you compare Second Sunday of Transformers to Second Sunday of Garfield, that lead that Transformers 1 had initially has been completely wiped away. And in fact, Garfield's now running away with it. Because by the end of the second weekend, Garfield went to $51.5 million, whereas Transformers 1 went to $39 million. So we're talking about, again, over $10 million separation. And we don't have those numbers yet, but something tells me that the second week numbers for Transformers are not going to be very good. And one of the reasons why we can say that, and it has to be said, of course, before any of this stuff, that if you are not quite certain about how you feel about numbers, and if you're uncomfortable with a certain subject, just know you are in very, very good hands, because it is now time.
Time to see a real mathematician at work!
We're going to do some math, all right? We're going to do some math. There it is. I've just made a bunch of people very happy, those that wait for that every single stream, every single show. There's your taste of it. You thought I forgot. I didn't forget. Actually, I did forget, and then I was able to set it up. But anyway, so this is the reason why I think Transformers 1, we can say right now, after 1 week, is on its way to failure. Because there are some other things to consider. So the first thing is if we actually go weekend comparison, okay? In fact, no, let me go back up to... Okay, let's get out of the Adam Driver page. Get out of here, Adam Driver. You're fantastic in silence, but that goes beyond the point. All right, here's the number that I want y'all to show. All right, look at this. 63%. So Transformers 1 dropped 63% in its second weekend of release. This is a quite steep drop for an animated kids movie, for an animated family movie. Typically, we see these kinds of drops in the case of maybe some of the MCU films, right, where they are very front-loaded with a lot of people seeing it opening weekend and then less and less and less people seeing them in the long run, and normally that's after a massive opening. Transformers 1 did not have a massive opening. If we look at the previous weekend chart, Transformers 1 couldn't even come number 1 in its opening weekend. Remember, it lost to the third weekend of Beetlejuice. So that was already a pretty bad sign for the movie. But then it also only opened to around $24 million. And there were projections indicating that they thought the film would make maybe over $30 million. It ended up coming in underneath the expectations. So it was already underperforming in its opening. Now you add on top of that a 63% drop, now dropping to the number 2 spot, and also only making around $9.1 million, bringing its total with all of the numbers from the previous week as well, total domestic to only $39 million. So this is the reason why, if you go to my chart, because we love charts here on OMB Reviews, and I brought this up in my box office breakdown, Transformers 1, we did get this. So I mentioned this in the review that we would probably see some updates to the numbers. Sure enough, we did. I actually put that in my pinned comment underneath that video, and it was in my article for geeksandgamers.com. Check out geeksandgamers.com. I write every single week my box office breakdown there, where it's in, I think, much easier to digest form. But $71.9 million after 2 weeks of release. That means that the film has a great chance of getting to over $100 million, but it's still in a best-case scenario if it had and was having strong drops and strong holds, only looking at a max of $143 million. So let's be generous and say maybe a max of $150 million. That's not going to be enough. With a budget of $75 million, you need to make, for a movie like Transformers 1, with a lot of that coming from those internationals as well, this film's going to have to definitely make closer to 3 times its budget. So that means that you're probably looking closer to almost $200+ million that it needs to make to break even. And $150 million ain't going to do it. And the fact that you're probably seeing this film making closer to $100 to $125 million means that those losses are going to be just that much more steep. So as of right now, projections are between 50 and 25 million in losses, but keep in mind, this is according to the old metric of a 2.5 multiplier as far as your break-even point. At a 3 times multiplier, we're actually talking about the movie being much closer to that $50+ million in losses. Right now, it's at $81 million in financial losses. Now, some people, again, look at this and say, but wait a minute, why do you keep saying that this movie is a failure? But in the case of a movie like The Wild Robot, you're not saying that, right? How can one be true versus the other? Well, one key to consider is this. If you actually look at the domestic versus international breakdown All right, after an opening weekend here, and again, we've already talked about the comparisons of $35 million for The Wild Robot, $24 million in the opening weekend for Transformers 1. So again, just comparing that, there was a $10 million advantage there. But if you go ahead and look at these numbers, look at this. The Wild Robot, after one weekend at $35.7 million, is only about $4 million behind 2 weeks worth, 2 weekends worth for Transformers 1. So that's why I said it's already within striking distance domestically. Internationally, it's looking very similar, right? $18 million for The Wild Robot versus $23 million for Transformers 1. Remember, Transformers 1 is in its second weekend of release internationally. And again, that is a factor that needs to be had there. And so, yeah, that's why I think you're going to see Wild Robot overtake it in it, if not one, then both of those categories. And I think ultimately it's going to have a higher total overall box office by the end of next weekend too. So that $90 million, I think in the case of The Wild Robot, has a very good chance of going away. And I think it could even go away much more quickly than one could possibly expect. We'll make some projections by the end of next weekend, but the fact that it's tracking already, right, $53 million worldwide as of right now versus $62 million after 2 weeks for Transformers 1. If this tracking continues, okay, we can actually expect that The Wild Robot has a better chance of maybe getting its second weekend numbers to close to maybe $100 million, right? So let me add another zero there. So about $100 million maybe even a little bit more than $100 million. So let's go ahead and math this out. If that actually were to happen, guess what? That would mean a worst case scenario final result of $142 million. Best case scenario would be around $200 million. And an average for that would be around $171 million. Now, some have said, now, according to your own metrics, that would mean what? Projections of financial losses, right? But here is a very big factor. Look at the range on this thing, okay? $31 million in losses versus $3 million in profits. The most important thing, because this is also just assuming that it only gets to $100 million. This film could easily get to well above that number. It's also a movie that, we'll go ahead and pull this up now too, is having a staggered release. This is also true to a certain extent. There's not a whole lot of major markets for Transformers 1. I think the UK is the only one where it gets released in October. But let's see what The Wild Robot is looking like. It's also getting a delayed release in Argentina, Austria, Brazil, Colombia, Denmark, France, Germany. That's a major player there in Germany. It's not getting released in Japan until February of next year. That's pretty insane. What the heck's going on with Japan? So I don't think that it's going to be enough to save it in any means or to add a whole lot to it, right? A movie like this could do well in Japan, but that's insane actually. Whoa. I hope that's like a misprint. I hope that's like a typo, because that just seems really, really weird. But the fact that 2025 is there makes me wonder if maybe it's not. Let me know in the chat if y'all can confirm if that's the case, because that's crazy. But it's also not yet released in Poland, South Korea. South Korea has the potential to make a splash. Spain and Sweden, and then it's also got its own delayed release in the United Kingdom as well. So I'll be honest, most of those countries I've just mentioned are not going to be major players, right? Japan could be, but that's much further down the line, and that's going to be long after the film has left theaters in most places. United Kingdom, this is one that I think is going to have probably the biggest splash on it. It seems like the kind of movie that could potentially even do well in a market like that. So we'll have to, of course, wait and see. We'll go ahead and pull up Transformers 1 just to get a bit of a comparison here, as I'd mentioned before. Let me go ahead and see if I can, yes, enhance. So as I mentioned before, right, Austria, as far as the late release, Czech Republic, France, Germany, similar story to The Wild Robot. So that's also why we'll see if it's already going to be tracking ahead of where Transformers 1 is, and they're getting delayed releases in the same countries, then we can expect that trend to probably continue. Israel, not a whole lot of money there. Norway, same thing. Slovakia, Switzerland 3 times, interesting. Ukraine and United Kingdom. So United Kingdom is one of those places where it's gonna be interesting, because I think it's about a week separated. So how much it does, Transformers 1, how much it does in its opening weekend on the 11th of October versus the opening weekend in the United Kingdom just a week later in The Wild Robot could make a huge difference and could actually show quite a bit as far as what the expected results will be. The fact still remains, Wild Robot is in a very comfortable position. It's going to have those delayed releases. And so I think that we might be able to even say, hey, even if it doesn't hit this number, could it be that we effectively have a closer to $125 million second weekend when you take into account these other delayed releases? Okay, now that's pushing it up closer to $250 million, which will put it well within striking distance of its break-even point. But the other thing about this thing is the fact that I think the movie actually has a very good chance of being a chart breaker, okay? So chart breakers are when you do better than the historical standard, okay? It doesn't happen often. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen, right? I think it's on another chart that I have the metrics on that, but one important thing to keep in mind is this. If a film does better than historical standard, it's a special kind of movie, either in the positive or the negative. In the positive, meaning that, hey, this film did better than expectations, more than doubled its total over the first 2 weeks. Very impressive to see that. The way that this movie, Wild Robot's being talked about, the word of mouth, everything about it, seems to be indicating it's got that. Transformers 1, it's got good word of mouth. It has nowhere near the same level as the Wild Robot. Again, the Wild Robot's being talked about by many. It got, I believe, an awesome-tacular score even from the likes of Jeremy Jahns. So that's the kind of level that this movie has. It's seen as a modern classic animated story. Transformers 1 has been, oh, it's a solid Transformers movie. That's only going to appeal to Transformers fans and maybe to some generic geek audience, of which I am typically a part of. But I can tell you, as a geek in this general space who's not that overly attached to Transformers as an IP, I have no interest in seeing that movie at all. And I think a lot of other people feel the same way. And a big part of it for me is because of, again, how poorly that IP is in my mind because of what Michael Bay did to it. So that's what I say about that. What do you have to say about that? Get some water. Ooh, we'll definitely be having some tea tonight, everybody. See, Luke Zilla. Also, apparently Paramount were the ones that wanted him back because the third movie made over $1.1 billion, so he agreed to do them if Paramount would fund Pain and Gain in 13 hours for him. Oof. Not a good deal, I think. Carl Jacobs, not politics like woke. I mean the inherent politics of adolescent interaction. If you have been on the wrong side of that stuff, the movie isn't a pleasant movie. You mean like bullying, Carl Jacobs? Because if that's the case, then I don't quite understand that one as much. Because, I mean, I get it. Again, someone who was bullied but also was a bully, I understand. But, again, as an adult, you've mostly worked out and worked through those things. And if you haven't, I'm sorry to hear that. But yeah, that kind of stuff I would actually probably appreciate more because, again, I think it's realistic. All right, let's see. Mass Flarp says, what's the main difference between Orthodox and Catholic? Primary difference is the fact that the Orthodox do not recognize the authority of the Pope, even though, there's a rich history to go back and to prove that from the early church fathers to just the entire history of the church for many, many, many centuries. Not to say that there is not also some validity to the idea of collegiality to a certain extent, meaning the understanding that individual bishops should have some sense of autonomy in some respects. But obviously there is still a vicar of Christ. There is still Peter amongst the apostles, right? You are Peter, and upon this rock, Peter, Petros, rock, I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. So from Scripture, from the understanding of Scripture from the very early beginnings of the church, it's pretty clear on that. That's a primary difference, though, is on the papacy. There are some other doctrinal differences, but honestly, I think that the biggest differences that exist between language, especially how we understand the relationship within God, there was controversy, for instance, when what's called the filioque was added. This is getting very, very deep theological here, but essentially with how we understand the relationship between the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, the issue is that I think the language is the problem and not the actual belief. I think that in belief, it's actually very similar. But because our words and our language are so different and we use theological terms in slightly different ways, I think that has actually ultimately led to the separation doctrinally, teaching-wise, on certain aspects, on certain things. But anyway. Prince Green, I saw Inside Out 2 and can confirm it didn't have any of the kind of teen girl content you're speaking of. Okay, Prince Green, that's what I thought I was going with. Glad to hear that's not in there. Because, if it's just with bullying, again, that's a kind of a part of life. And I feel like that's been in a ton of movies. All right, I see there is a super chat, so let me go ahead and get to that real quick. So first, Sahil99, thank you very much for the $5 super chat. Appreciate your brother saying, hello, Odin, I love this page. Thanks for the content. Highly recommend an older film called Finder's Fee from 2002 with Ryan Reynolds and James Earl Jones. Well, rest in peace, James Earl Jones. And Sahil99, thank you very much, good sir. Appreciate that. Never knew Ryan Reynolds did a film with James Earl Jones. That's interesting. All right, let's see. If you have a comment or question, just put add on the very comment. We're going to start to wrap things up a little bit, but not too much. See, Harwick saying, did you know that way back in 1946, Walt Disney made an educational animated short film called The Story of Menstruation, which was shown to 105 million students in schools? Did not. That's interesting. Rob D, the future of Transformers movies. I can see being direct-to-video streaming animated films like how DC does. Maybe that's for the best. Maybe that's how they can make that work. Because they need to definitely build up some goodwill. Mass Flarps, Twilight of the Gods is similar to Jendi Tartakovsky's Primal Cartoons. It's still Zack Snyder, so no interest. Cthulhu, looks like Wild Robot is going to pull a Puss in Boots. Exactly, Cthulhu. I think that's the kind of energy the film seems to have. We'll know for sure by week 2, or at least have a pretty good idea. Lukezilla, Odin, Bay hasn't directed a Transformers movie since 2017's Last Night. I do believe the franchise fatigue is at play, but also the new movie might not feel as theater-worthy as those first 4 movies. But then also, what do you have to say about Rise of the Beast? Because that film also did not do well. This film is not doing as well as Rise of the Beast, but come on. I mean, again, I understand where you're all coming from, and these are valid things for sure. But we have to really go into Bay is the primary reason why this thing is failing. Wendy Hunter, I love math. Absolutely. Mass Flarbs, can MCU movies still make money without a million cameos in them? All the movies without cameos flopped, and the ones with many cameos made $1 billion. It has less to do with the cameos and more to do with fan service. So there is effective fan service. I think of Deadpool Wolverine being a great example of that. Spider-Man No Way Home being a great example of that, where there is fan service, but it's being done in a way that is actually entertaining to the vast majority of people. There are people that are going to hate it for sure, but most people, as the box office clearly indicated for both of those movies, enjoyed it quite a bit. And I still go back and think that those movies are a lot of fun, and those fan service elements are still enjoyable even after multiple viewings. But then there are other times when it's fan service done for the sake of fan service, where there's no intelligible story whatsoever. And that, I think, is when you start to lose people. It starts to be like, okay, I don't care that this person is in the movie or that you're promising this or that. It's kind of what we've seen with modern MCU movies outside of Deadpool Wolverine, where you might have certain actors, for instance, featured, but it's not enough. It is not enough. But no, I don't think typically that movies, it's not, again, about the cameos. It's about a fan service. So do I think that movies can make money without effective fan service? No, because the whole point of the comic book genre is to give fan service. It's the reason why the original films were successful. But even those successful films still took a while to get as successful, right? Because they had to build their audience. They had to build that trust. All right, let's see. Luke Zilla says, as for Twilight of the Gods, Zach only directs 2 episodes. The rest are directed by other sorts of like Love, Death, and Robots. Again, if it's still his creation, his story, I have no interest. Kiki Rumsky, that's the stuff. Carl Jacobs, about math. Everyone should have to take calculus. If I had to take lit, they can take 2 semesters of calculus. Kiki Rumsky, do you just have 2 meme videos on your soundboard? Puff Math and Excommunicado? No. I've also got this one.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
I'm sorry. And then for those that talk about the Meg 2 all the time, all I have to say is this.
I said, oh, nay, nay.
Oh, nay, nay. I got the whole clip, by the way. There's several parts. Rest in peace, John Panette. Great comedian. Love his stuff. But I have got the whole clip. It's just all the times he was like, nay, nay. Love it. Hardwick, have you ever seen Zack Snyder's Rise of the Guardians, the Owls of Ga'Hoole? If so, what'd you think? I've not seen it, and again, I have no interest in seeing it. Print screen. So far as I can tell, there won't be a Transformers 2. Theatrically, no. Based off of theatrical alone, no, because it's going to flop theatrically based off of what we're seeing. But I've mentioned this in my box office breakdown videos before. Just because a film flops theatrically does not mean that the movie has no future. If we look to a film like Edge of Tomorrow, for instance, with Tom Cruise, that film was a massive flop financially. However, in its post-theatrical release, it got a lot of love in physical media, on streaming, and because of that, has been able now to get into the process of a sequel being made. So that can happen. So let's say it goes to streaming, or it goes to VOD, video on demand, and it finds a new life there. That could be enough to make its money back and to make some profits off of it and to justify another release. But those are a lot of ifs. I only cover the box office. So what I say about box office stuff and about flops is, okay, at the box office right now, there is no real sense of hope for this movie to be successful. Whereas for The Wild Robot, we have a lot of reasons to be hopeful. Abomination, Japanese people would probably find other ways to watch the movie. One would think. Print screen. Japan always gets movies late. John Wick 4 came out in March of 2023 here, but not until September 2023 in Japan. Yeah, and I guess that's probably about the same time, but it just, in my head, it just seems so much longer. I know it's not, but it does. Cthulhu, just wait until those sub-Saharan numbers come in. Oh boy. Japan hasn't been box office relevant since about 2021, unless it's Japan-made IP like Godzilla, One Piece, and Demon Slayer. Don't count on anything making money there. Yeah, I mean, honestly, you can still look to some American-made animated films. It did, Mario, for instance, did pretty well there. Not as well as I had predicted it. Again, people said, "Oh man, Japan's gonna go nuts," and I was like, "Don't count your chickens." If it's not, because yes, Nintendo's involved, but it is about as Western of a movie as a Western film can be. Doesn't matter what voice actors you get. All right, it's a Western movie. And sure enough, that film did not do the gangbusters numbers that some were predicting. It did well. It was a solid release there. It did as well as a lot of other Western releases. Didn't do much else after that, though. So, yeah. Cthulhu. Suddenly reminded of Holy Grail. We built the church in the swamp. Not the church. It was like, it's not a church they built in the swamp, okay? It was a castle. First bit of castle. Sank into the swamp. Then we built a second one. That one sank into the swamp. Then we built a third one. That one burned down, fell over, and then sank into the swamp. But the fourth one stood up. And that's exactly what you'll get. The strongest castle in these isles. Jose Taco, not yet. I have not seen Wild Robot yet, but it is on my to-watch list for sure. Thanatos, I checked out Transformers when Bumblebee was not a VW Beetle. I checked out of Transformers when Bumblebee was not. And Bumblebee was vastly overrated by a lot of people. The story was just not good there. Thanatos, also, Odin, no love for Steiner Math. I mean, I know others use the Steiner Math in their videos, so, I'll let that be their thing. But, yeah, I personally like the Puffs Math. I think it's funnier. Kane Rumsky, who's worse, Bay or Snyder? Oh, Snyder, easily. At least with Bay, you can go back and say The Rock. You can go back and say The Island. There are films you can pick out from his filmography that are good on their own right. With Snyder, some would go back and say maybe Dawn of the Dead, but don't forget, he did not write that movie. So I think that's a bit of a wash, a bit of a cop-out. Full creative control, some would maybe say 300. I think the film has aged very, very poorly. You go back and rewatch it and actually pay attention and forget the nostalgia of what it was like to watch that film initially. There's some great moments in there for sure, but the movie does not hold up well. 300. The other one that some people might throw out there is his version of Watchmen. Again, there's some good elements in there. The movie itself, though, doesn't hold up. Print screen. Speaking of Deadpool Wolverine, I saw it again this weekend, and my theater removed the Alien Romulus trailer. Glad to see no out-of-date trailers. Yeah, typically that's how it goes. Mass Florp. Star Strange 2 only made $950 million because it had a lot of cameos. Captain America: Civil War made most money due to its cameos. Winter Soldier's better movie, but made less money, no cameos. So I will actually disagree with you there. Again, cameos are only a part of the story. The reason why Doctor Strange 2 made $950 is not actually because of the cameos. It's because of the connection between it and Spider-Man No Way Home. No Way Home was a phenomenon at the box office. Just the week before that movie, the death knell had been rung because I still remember it clear as day. West Side Story, the remake, had just been a massive catastrophe. And everyone was like, oh, well, COVID, that's why it got destroyed. And then I was like, yeah, just wait for Spider-Man. And sure enough, Spider-Man comes along, blows out records, blows out the numbers. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, yeah, well, COVID, what was I talking about? And because that directly connects with Doctor Strange, that's why Doctor Strange did well. Because people were expecting a continuation of that same style of filmmaking. And when that didn't happen, what happened in your week 1 to week 2? Massive drop. Not because of the cameos, dude. Cameos can help, but if you think you've cracked the code, man, you're missing a pretty big piece. Luke Zilla. I was definitely talking about the last 3 movies, not just Transformers 1. Even I and many others who liked the first 4 movies did not like The Last Night. Yeah, Wendy Hunter. Now to go. I have a Bible study. I hope the rest of your chat goes well. Thank you very much. Yeah, we're wrapping things up here. I try not to overstream too much over the man with the orange hat who has his own Monday Night Rants show. Hardwick. Michael Bay's 13 Hours is good. It was okay. Yeah, it was okay. As I said, Bay has at least some quality in his filmography. I think 13 Hours was a return to form in many ways. But the trick with Hardwick, the trick with 13 is the film good because it deals with a subject that we think should have been talked about more because it deals with Benghazi, which no one was talking about. So is it because of that, or is it because the film is actually good? I would argue the film is actually good. But I can't help but think if the connection between that and the 2016 campaign and Clinton and all those other things, if that did not feed into the perception that many of us have. I just throw that out there. All right, we're going to wrap things up here. Cthulhu Bay smashes beer cans into his forehead, and there's a certain charm to that. Abomination. Sorry, math is greater than whatever math that Gary Banjo Edwards Worthington uses to get 50% every single time. Boom, Abomination. Yes. Mr. Wingster, 300 isn't a masterpiece. Me, I can fix him. Nope. That ain't going to happen. Cthulhu, I didn't even see my name tag, says, Odin, do you not know the power of abs? Good grief. Kiki and Repsky. Part of what made last week's show so good, in my opinion, was your whiny voice when reading some comments. Oh, man. I don't even remember the voice that I did. I'll have to go back and rewatch it. But that's exactly how the person was typing. That's the voice of me that came into my head. Gary Banjo says, Bay is action, but story is iffy sometimes. I would say a huge portion of the time, dude. Because, yeah, 13 Hours, again, I think it has a lot of good moments to it. But, man, because didn't he also do the film Ambulance? Gosh, that movie sucked. That movie had so many Michael Bay. If it wasn't Michael Bay directly, it was Michael Bay inspired, and it was awful. And I was excited because Jake Gyllenhaal was in that movie. Hardwick. Zack Snyder is like a pretentious version of Michael Bay who thinks he's Dostoevsky. Oh, yes, Hardwick. That's a good one. Abomination. Shaky Cambulance. Yes, Shaky Cambulance. Gosh, the Shaky Cam was so bad. Oh, it was so bad. Lex Ladendi says, fun show, happy birthday. Thank you very much, Lex Ladendi, for the birthday wishes. Appreciate it. Mass Flarbs, let's see. Oh, boy. Okay, here it comes. Man. Continue putting up with one another and forgiving one another freely, even if anyone has a cause for complaint against another. Just as Jehovah freely forgave you, you must also do the same. Oh, boy. Colossians 3:13, forgive Zack Snyder. That would require me to actually hate him. I don't actually hate him as a person. I just think that he's a garbage filmmaker. Christ says that we must love everyone. That does not mean that we like everybody. We desire the good for their end. And in my opinion, I believe that his good would be to get out of filmmaking. Lex Ladendi. Yeah, I don't think it's the same person. He's just not writing in the same cadence in the same way. But it's getting to be a very, very similar persona. But yes, the voice came back immediately. As soon as I see something where it's like, okay, yeah, this sounds a bit whiny. It's like, okay, I got it. Prince Screen says, if you don't like Shaky Cam, it's a good thing you didn't see Snake Eyes. It was just Shaky Cam the movie. Yeah, I got a free copy of that I never reviewed. I wanted to because I feel obligated when I get things like that to watch them. But I oh man, I'm glad to hear that because I would probably hate it. Lexa Dendy, but the voice is back. The voice indeed is back. For sure. Also, Mr. Wingster said Armageddon is still a classic. Oh, I agree. Armageddon's a very, very fun movie, but I think the best part of Armageddon absolutely is the Aerosmith song that came out of it. Because, man, I love that song. It's such a great song. It's a weird one to connect. Like, you think about the words, and it's like, I understand it's supposed to be a connection of, like, you singing it, like, father singing to daughter, but then you're also like, I don't know if it has that vibe to it, dude. I'm sure that had, like, some controversy back then, too. Like, that was before I would have even been aware of it, because when Armageddon came out, 99? 2000? I feel like it was close to 2000. Within a few years of it, if not right at it. So I would have been in middle school when that film first came out. So I wouldn't have remembered all the controversy if there had to have been any behind it. I remember the music video, however, and just, again, in hindsight, you're like, man, yeah, 1998. Okay, I was like, I knew it was around that time. But for him, it's like he's singing to his daughter, but I'm like, it's being used in the movie in a romantic way. I don't know, it's weird. Cthulhu. To be fair, Snyder is a good cinematographer, and I don't feel like the theater needs to replace the bulb in his movies, but good lord, he couldn't see a good story if it was stapled to his face. Yeah, and I think that's a problem with Cthulhu, is that I can't even give him the cinematographer thing, because the story is so distracting, and his visual effects are so distractingly bad. Like, just because your visual effects might be well rendered or well designed does not mean that they are used effectively. When your movie looks fake, when your movie looks artificial, when it should look real, when it should feel real, I'm sorry. Like, that means that you have failed. Also, I'm so sorry. I just realized I did not turn Heimdall on for those checking their cookies. No, I've let you all down. This is why I need people checking things at the beginning of the show. I'm so sorry. I'm going to try to turn them on so that you can get some cookies, maybe. Oh, no. That's my bad. Well, as a birthday present to me, I ask that you forgive me. Cthulhu is saying, happy birthday and wish you the best every day. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Heimdall quit. Odin didn't pay him. No, I've tried to turn him on twice, and he won't power on. Maybe my computer's just broken. Dragon Pricks, thank you. What is this cookie? It's my free digital currency just for watching the streams. Abomination. YouTube lost viewers. The one thing they had over Odyssey viewers. Seriously. People are like, wait, I'm not getting cookies. I'm out of here. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, Heimdall won't turn on now. Prince Green. Honestly, I thought Heimdall was another user when I first started watching the show. No, it's a bot. Oh, man. Gary says, 50% fail on cookies. No, Gary. No, 50% fail on you. Snowgolem, gotta roll. Me too. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up, guys. Thank you all very much for watching tonight. It was a ton of fun to talk about all of these things. I was not able to give a full review of my old ass, but hey, what I can say ultimately about it is not as good as I thought it was going to be. I still give it a rad score because the acting is fantastic. There's some really great story elements in there. It's just too overly sexualized, and I think that it's not a good thing. King and Rumsky, it's a fair point. It could be that Heimdall is being blocked by the VPN. That is a very fair point to say for sure. But I want to say thank y'all for the birthday wishes. It really does always mean a lot when people do that. Again, it was a really great birthday over the weekend. And yeah, very excited to see what my next year in life will be like. Rob D, no dough, no cookies. No dough, no show. No dough, no show. I'll try opening it up one more time. Nope, he doesn't want to work. Yep, I think that you might be right about the VPN. I'll have to remember not to have that on next time. So anyway, you guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your night, everybody. Good night to Prince Screen. Good night to Mr. Wingster. Good night, Odin's old Oh, Mr. Wingster. Fritz Green, happy birthday. Thank you. Cthulhu, can we get the Ziggy Piggy clip when you leave to get ice cream? I'll have to look that one up. That does not come to mind right away. I don't think I'm ever going to eat ice cream live on the show, though, because that would just be too much on my part. Anyway, you guys are awesome. Have a wonderful rest of your night, everybody. A blessed Monday. October is tomorrow, everybody. So if you are in the Discord, if you have been in the giveaways channel because you are a Keep It the Bifrost member, last chance to enter in for this bad boy. That's right. Ooh, hot off the presses. This is the Japanese special collector's edition of Godzilla Minus One 4K edition. I've got one copy that I'm giving away probably tomorrow morning. So if you are a Keep It the Bifrost member and you are on the Discord server, and you should know who you are at this point. If you have not entered in, then tonight is the last night to enter in for that. One lucky person will get that beauty, and tons of more giveaways to be done on that channel in the future. Anyway, you guys are amazing. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, everybody. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge special shout out to all of my Chosen of Valhalla members, starting off first with my people on Patreon, Father Luca Illick and Miss Martin Muses. Check out her YouTube channel by the same name, Miss Martin Muses. Also to my Subscribestar people, Matt317. Check out his Twitch channel by the same name, Matt317. And also to the K-Man. Check out his website, xtheboundaries.co. And lastly to my YouTube member, Mr. Roy. Shout out to you, good sir. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, check out the top link in the video description below where you get access to that. Also, you get access to a plethora of other things. You get your name listed at the end of every live stream and video, like you saw in those names that came up before this video started. And also access to a giveaways channel that I host over on the Discord server where I give away 4Ks, Steelbooks, Blu-rays, all kinds of stuff. So check that out if you're interested in that. Also, I have an exclusive podcast that I hold at least once a month, and it's always a good time, and you get extra bonus content with that also. So if any of that sounds interesting, again, check out that top link in the video description below. You guys are all amazing, and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your day, a blessed August, and as always, God bless.